Why, hello, everybody. It is Robbie from Southern California. And I know I say this all the time. I go, oh my gosh, but oh my gosh. It is November 1st. We're coming to the end of the year. I can't believe it. The holiday season's coming. Oh, we'll see how it goes this year. It's going to be a very different holiday. But today, I'm going to try to do this quick zip through the garden because, well, I'm not doing heavy planting right now. Obviously, that cabbage butterfly is still thinking about doing her thing. We are growing still tons of squash. I did not know they would keep growing. I'm actually picking the small ones because there's so many big ones. Look at these. This one is a hybrid, a zucchini hybrid. Look at that. But you know what? They taste just as good as zucchini. Cleaning up the tomatoes, trying to figure out, which ones are going to make it and what's going to be. Still watering, of course, and taking care of everything. That's one thing we always do. See, I picked one off yesterday, and this thing was only that big and literally overnight because I don't want such big ones. They're like watermelons. I've got to get them in and really either bake them up or process them. In other words, peel them, cut them up, and freeze them. So I have them for the winter, and I do have to do that. The peppers are doing fantastic. That's the teeny pepper plant. That's the black cobra. Well, it has been loaded with hundreds of peppers. And this has been amazing. Gary comes over and says, "What did you plant?" I said, "I didn't plant anything." And he goes, "Well, you must have planted something." I said, "Well, I put some beans in here." And he said, "It doesn't look like beans." You know what this is? Unbelievable for this late in the season. Cucumbers. I am growing cucumbers. I cannot believe it. I'm going to have to go through and see how many there are. What I believe I did, because I haven't planted anything in there, I cleaned up the toad. I've got peppers growing in there. What I did was I had some cucumber plants further down there, and they were dried up little cucumbers. They didn't do much, so I tossed them in there to compost them. Yep, well, they're growing. I can't believe it. This is just so late in the season for cucumbers. So we'll see how it goes. Look at this, more cucumbers. This is where I had the watermelon, and I had the watermelon in there, and I moved the rack in there, cleaned it up, threw a bunch of kitchen scraps in there, tossed in some old cucumbers from down here. This is the Malabar spinach. That's the other black cobra. I've got to get this off. This is sweet smelling. Oh my gosh, this is ready to go. Korean melon. I lost one of them. Oh, it could have been a rat or a squirrel. So I covered this one in tulle. This is ready to go. I've got to get that off today because if I don't cover them here in tulle, I will lose some of them. Okay, got it. That tulle saved this Korean melon. Look at that. Putting my walking onions in here because this is going to probably go around the ponds that Gary's building, and this will go inside the cement blocks perfectly, and I'll have walking onions for there. The tomato plant, I'm kind of cleaning up through here is what I'm doing. And what I had through here was I'm trying to see if there's any remnants left. Yeah, here's a little bit. I had all the cucumbers growing, so I threw one of the old cucumbers into that tote down there, and now I got cucumber plants growing. Are they going to make it? I don't know. But still have some tomatillos. There's a little tiny cutting of a purple tree colored. I think what happened was it was an actual plant and it got chewed to the stump, to the ground, probably by a rabbit, and now it's making a comeback. So what I'm doing here is I've got peppers. I'm hoping to have the peppers go all through the winter, and that's loaded with peppers. That plant's got 4, 5, 6 peppers on it. Clean up and see what will make it through the winter. Obviously the squash is done, and this way, come spring, I can just start growing immediately into zucchini. This is a purple tree color. Isn't that gorgeous? So that's what I'm doing now. And of course, the leaves, they get saved or thrown directly back into a pot, a tote or a container, and just use it that way. This needs better staking. Purple tree color, tomatoes, celery. This is celery that went to seed. If you're in an area that you don't get a lot of snow or anything, Southern California, any place that has somewhat water that you can water, this is why I have celery coming up everywhere. See the celery coming up down there? There comes up in the ground because it throws millions of tiny seeds. So once you have celery, you'll always have celery. People ask me, "Oh, did you plant it from seed?" Yes, I did. I bought the seeds online on eBay, and the girl said to me, "Once you plant them, you will never get rid of it." I have celery come up everywhere. You can pull it out and compost it, But I try to keep the ones I want, like here's one in a tote that grew, and then the ones I don't want, I just pull out. I've got sage. A lot of the basil is on its way out. This is my only time on the property. Look at that. You see what's all loaded under there? Lettuce. I had a lettuce growing in here, and lettuce grows really good. If you leave it in a cluster like that, they won't grow. They have to be separated. This is sage back here. So I've got basil, thyme, sage, and I'm not sure if there was anything else in there besides the lettuce. So that did really good. That's just a round container sitting on an old bird cage. Got it off the ground and away from the rabbits. I'll show you what the rabbits did to something else in my chair garden. So all in all, everything's doing good here. I have been picking eggplant off of this. We've got another flower. So there's an eggplant. This is just a weed. That's for the goldfinches that come in. They are really desperate right now. I have actually had one of them come into my bird seed bowl to look for food because they couldn't find food. Purple basil. Purple basil is really nice because you don't have to clip the flowers off. You can leave the flowers for the bees, and it will just grow until its time is over. So leaving the flowers, I have found on purple basil, doesn't hurt the plant. It will just keep going, but we're getting to the point where by winter, another month, it may start dying out. You can't really save it outside. It's got a season. It's an annual, and when it's done, it's done. Where the green basil, if you don't take all the flowers off like I didn't there, it will die back, and it can die back earlier than really, you can keep it alive. So trim the flowers off if you're trying to keep it alive. Plus you get bigger leaves, or don't worry about it. I leave it for the bees sometimes. It's kind of my mood, whatever I want to do. But purple basil, I use that too in pizza and different things. Gosh, it's so great. And I like leaving it so the bees can come. I've got that turmeric growing in here. That was that piece. It was a dried up little piece of turmeric. Look how big it got. It was a dried up piece of turmeric. I thought it was no good, so I just shoved it in there when I was done getting that tote all together, and obviously it was good. Got tomatoes still growing. I really have to clean that up. This is a new setup that I'm doing. Look at this. 2 chairs. And just a rail, just something I found around here. And this is something I really got to get into because this holds 3 totes. If the rail was a heavy-duty rail, piece of outdoor wood, really thick, a good plank, you could probably put 4 across there. I'm going to get that set up. And buckets, I'm working on buckets. Going to get a lot planted in buckets. All right, let's go into the front yard. So now we're in the front yard. Now, I'm going to let you know, I've been busy doing so many things. I haven't done a lot of planting, and I do come through here in the morning and clean and pull off the yellowing leaves because leaves to me are really important. This is that squash plant that came up, and in one of the past garden tours, I pollinated it. I took a male flower off and I pollinated a female flower, and we ended up, look at this, we ended up with the squash here. And I've got another little squash here. I'm not sure what kind of squash that is, but it doesn't matter. When I think the time is right, I'll just pick it. I removed that fire pit that my daughter had given me. That was there, and I'm going to set up 2 more totes. So this will give me more planting room for zucchini come spring. There's not too much I'm going to plant now because this time of the year we're going to use a lot of what we're growing. Oh my goodness. You know where this has to go. I'll pick that and give that to Kitty soon, my Yorkie, because that is broccoli, and this is a cutting off a tree collard, and that is in here. You know what's living in here? I have a gopher snake that lives in here. He comes out and he winds around, and then he'll go all over here looking for, obviously, mice, something to eat, and then he goes back, and I see him all the time. And let me tell you something. I'd rather have a gopher snake living inside under here than a rattlesnake. So he'll keep all other snakes out because this is his territory. So I'm fine with that. We've got a little celery that came up here. And then this is just some succulents that were there before. So here it is. I have rearranged it. You've seen it. So now all the totes are going to be just like my chair garden, all in one area. So when I come in here and I want to water, it's going to make my life easier. I think this tool is what, over 2 years old. I've got to get this off. I'll save it. I'm going to use this for around plants and different things, but it's got to be really from the sun worn. It's pretty good. See, it will make holes. I can't, it's time to go. So in here, I really haven't done anything, just kind of starting to set up and think about how I want to do it for the spring. Because think about it, come, January, February, I'm going to want to get this all set up the way I want. So come March or whenever the time is ready, and depending on the weather, I want to be able to get into zucchini right away. And I'm going to be more selective. I grew too much squash that I really don't care for, but will use it. Long squash, even it's not so much the hybrids, just different squash came up that I really don't like that much. And I am crazy about zucchini. I've talked about it 100 times. There's my blueberries. I'm even going to move my blueberries. I have a whole idea. I had blueberries here and they were set up in another area on the ground. You can see the rabbits chewed it all up. So I'm going to set them up differently. But I want to grow more zucchini, as I was saying. This is all walking onions. And of course, walking onions and garlic chives. See, the rabbits have the green sorrel. I gave them that. They can have that. They're supposed to leave everything else alone. And this is where Gary took the swimming pool out. I want to be more selective as far as what I grow. I don't really buy any produce for us from the stores. So all I have to do is shop online. I have Walmart deliver everything. And it's worked out really, really well for me. But I really like zucchini because I can use that in a savory dish or in a dessert dish. I make popsicles, ice cream, jello, all kinds of dessert, zucchini bread, cake from zucchini. And then you can turn around and use it in chili, enchiladas, soups, eggs, anything you want. You can use zucchini, or just zucchini fried up with butter is super. You can use zucchini that way. So I like to flavor zucchini. And then if I'm doing ground meat and I want to make tacos or have something with ground meat in the dish, I can fry up my ground meat. I can chop up in a food processor zucchini, add that to the ground meat. You could do it with ground chicken. The whole thing tastes like ground chicken or ground beef. I should say you won't even know it's zucchini. Zucchini takes the flavor on, and that is what is so wonderful about zucchini. So zucchini is my favorite. And plus, you can pick zucchini at any size. You can pick it really tiny, or you can leave it to turn into an 8-pound zucchini. Whatever works for you. This is why I've got the walking onions in those milk cartons. See, because I put them inside the cement blocks, and this way the water goes to the onions, the walking onions, and they grow much better. If you plant directly in cement blocks, what happens too many times is the cement block acts like a sponge. It draws the water away, the plants dry out, and I found that they don't do as good. But having them in a container, this is garlic chives in here. Look how well they do. They do so much better. Now you can still fill the rest of it with soil and make sure, remember, all containers have to have holes. So make sure the bottom of the milk cartons, whatever you're using, or you can use a plastic container, make sure they've got holes and make sure that you have soil all the way around so they can send their roots underneath and they can still use and utilize all the soil that's whatever is in the bricks, I should say cement blocks. And this way they'll grow really into nice plants. These were nothing. These were just tiny little walking onion sets I put in here, and they are doing fantastic. Haven't done anything here, but I'll tell you, as soon as I see tomatoes right now, and there's a red one, and there's more up there, and all the way up there in the sun, I've got to get them off all through here because I'm freezing them now. See, I don't know if this plant's going to make it through the winter, but I want tomatoes. So what I do is I wash them, put them in a strainer, let them dry really good, whole, and freeze them. I'm doing that to tomatillos as well. So I'm trying to go through. See, I've grew a lot of these squash, and they're fine. You bake them up. It's just not my favorite. I don't make enchiladas or anything like that out of those squash because those are winter squash. They harden up, and you really got to bake them, roast them, do something else. With zucchini, you use the whole thing. It's fantastic. Let me turn around. This is ginger growing. See how I use the tool on the bottom, the old tool? Just keeps critters out. Because sometimes critters will get in here and they'll nibble on the new growth coming through. But when you've got tools sitting in there, they don't want to bother with it. They don't know what it is. They get their nails stuck. So they just leave and they don't bother. And of course my turmeric. Look at this. And my stevia. Look at the stevia. It's gone now to seed. So look how small the leaves are. But you know what? I'm still using it. It's about ready to die out. So what I'm doing right now, and Gary loves it, is I'm trying to find enough time to keep bringing in mint, blending it up with stevia. I then strain it. So I make kind of a tea, a heavy, heavy tea out of it. And I strain it and then I freeze it in ice cube trays. And then I pack them in bags or put them in a big container in the freezer. So you can just grab the ice cubes out. You can add it to your water. You can add it to coffee. He loves it. So I've got to finish doing that before the stevia is gone. And you know what? Once the stevia is gone, we don't have a problem with a little sugar if I want to add in just a pinch of sugar. Okay, let's go. This is gorgeous. And I will take you with me when I start harvesting it. And let me tell you real quick on here, because you asked me when can you take it. I have been taking ginger from here. All right, I've taken, so there's not that much. I just dig it out. I cut off what I need and cover it back with soil. So you can use it anytime you want. And I've been using fresh ginger in my cooking and my food. And you can do the same thing with turmeric. But at some point, very soon, I will end up coming out here and harvesting it all, freezing what I want to keep and replanting what I want to grow. And that will be very, very soon because as our weather changes, see the leaves are already starting to dry back. Soon our nights are getting cold. As soon as they get cold into the 50s and then into the 40s, a lot of these plants start to die back. And that's nature. And so we'll just keep what we want, eat what we want, and be ready for spring. And I'll get more planted and out and about as soon as I harvest all this. And I will take you with me. Okay, let's go into the main garden. Okay, now we're in the main garden, and I think I'm going to change the main garden, but we'll talk about that another time because I'm still thinking. Let's start with this wall, and this upside down container. It's just got celery. I don't even know why I bother, but it's got a lot of cuttings, and I just saw this when I walked in. I didn't know that I was growing broccoli here. Oh, this is a whole plant. You know, I thought it was a cutting I put in here. I need to take all this off and just collect the leaves. I need to take care of this because this is important to me. This may be one of my original sprouting broccoli plants. I had grabbed a couple pieces off and stuck them around, so it is a cutting. And I wanted to try to keep it alive because it was 5 years old, 4 years old. And look at that, I've got there and there. I'm gonna get this all off and force this to do a lot of different little heads like it used to do. But I tried to take off some pieces that were still on the plant. And I guess I did, and I've got that, and oh, Kitty will be happy. And maybe cater to that, maybe get that in a bigger container and really take care of it. So we'll see, because I don't even remember that much about it, but I now can see it's an old plant. See the old plant? I don't know if you can get in there and see it, but see this has been a cutoff, and it grew a bunch of shoots. So this is cool. We'll see what happens with that. And then I've got celery and garlic chives, and this is dazzling blue kale that's kind of out of control, but look how beautiful that is. And then, of course, more walking onions, still walking. That's what's in those milk cartons that I set up. See that? Just take the little babies off, stick them in there, and then they grow into beautiful walking onions. That's a big onion because that is my main onion this whole year. I have not bought no onions from the grocery store. So all the onions I have been cooking with have been coming from my very own walking onions. You can use a whole onion, and at times I have pulled the whole thing out and chopped it up, and every part of the walking onion is edible, and it's fantastic. Just some more, this looks like more dazzling blue kale. This one's more purple. And then, of course, my lemon verbena. And then this I've been using because I haven't bought any mushrooms. This is a mushroom plant. And I made rice with it the other day, and I put that in the rice, and it tasted like rice and mushrooms, and it wasn't. It was from the mushroom plant. So I need to get more cuttings off of that, but that's a nice, big, beautiful plant. And then just some more cuttings in there and some more walking onions. Okay, here I've been getting this all out. See more of this squash that I really don't use that much. I bake them up, not real big on it, split it, put a little butter in it, eat it, but it's not my thing. Gary likes it, but then of course I've got one still sitting in the fridge he didn't eat, so I don't know how much he really likes it. Starting to throw things in here and compost in here. See, just throw leaves in here. Look at this. Also spaghetti squash. We're not real big on that. So I've got to either bake that up for Gary or take it in. It's a fabulous emergency food if you have nothing, because these will last for months and months and months. These are perfect for storing spaghetti squash. I probably will take those two in and store them, but this is all done. And then this is just a cutting from a collard, and More collard growing, some from seed, celery. This is Malabar spinach, and it's going to seed. Here's another hybrid of Brad's atomic tomatoes. This is my old dinosaur kale. What is it, 6 now? Look how old it is, and it's still going. And then this I know I planted is a broccoli, a type of broccoli. And this I believe is a broccolini, and I've got another broccolini here, see? They grow long spears. The one that I used to grow before was called a sprouting broccoli, and that one grew little pieces on the side, like little shoots all over it. That's the one I miss. And I do have some seeds. I planted them. One grew and then it just toppled over. I don't know why, but it never got bigger than that. I'm going to try again. Oregano. But I really want to get the sprouting broccoli plant I had because that was my favorite. Here is the purple tree colored from eBay. Again, talk about this all the time. I had to tie it up with string up against the fence there because it cannot hold its own weight. But I'm going to do tons of cuttings on it this winter. And it should be really good to have tons of it for, whenever I want. I do have a lot of other purple tree collards, but being that this came from somebody else and the ones I bought came from someplace else, I want to see if they're different. So I'm just letting it grow, and I'm starting to do cuttings off of it. More lemon verbena. Here is my old dinosaur kale. It was a cutting off of it. There is red vein sorrel. And look at this, an avocado tree. The ravens have been dropping avocado pits everywhere. They must come fly by and drop them, and they're growing everywhere in all my containers. See this? An avocado pit that the ravens just dropped in the front yard. The ones that end up in my totes end up growing avocados from the pits that they're falling and dropping everywhere. Let's see what's back here. I've got still mint. This is orange mint. This has turned into a jungle. Look at how beautiful the old dinosaur kale is back there. So it just kind of depends on where and what part of it is growing where. Some of the leaves are nice and some of them are quite small, but we'll see if the plant makes it. It's really in bad shape. Walking onions everywhere. You can see, as far as the eye can see. Anywhere I can stick walking onions, I do. And then look at all the tomatoes. Look at all this. Isn't that gorgeous? We have tons of tomatoes. I just hope all through the top, everywhere. I hope we get a lot more tomatoes before the season changes. And you probably won't be able to see it back there, but I've got dragon fruit, and that's one thing we've been eating quite a bit of. Gary comes out here, he hand pollinates them at night, and it has been fantastic. And that's such a good fruit. You probably can't, but they're right there. There's one there, and there's another one there, and there's probably a few more around. Look at that. It's growing right through my garden. You've got to be careful, too. See this? Because they bite. See the thorns? Yeah, so I have to be careful reaching in here. But later on in the spring, I'm going to kind of train this all up a little bit better and then get it more organized. Because I could walk through there and then it all overgrew. I shouldn't say that because I might change my mind. I'm starting to think I might change this garden totally. See? Saving leaves. Don't throw leaves away. So what else is growing through here? More mint on the ground. I've even got walking onions in this strawberry tower. I'm starting to put walking onions in there. I've got walking onions there. I love the walking onions. And this winds around. If you're wondering what this is and this is purple sprouting broccoli. It's one massive plant that fell over and it's winding everywhere. But you know what? I can take a cutting, and this thing roots like mad, and create all these little ones even. They all root. It just is beautiful. And the leaves are great to use in anything you want to use greens, whether it's a green drink, a stir fry, it doesn't matter. So I don't want to take it out, but I need to really trim it up and then get rid of where all the seed heads were on the top because the seeds are gone right now. I did not grow any from seed unless it fell somewhere. I didn't collect the seeds, because it probably would hybridize with everything else growing, all kinds of collard and stuff, and you'll end up with something that doesn't look like anything, and it's fine, but I just didn't bother collecting the seeds. And then my water fountains, that one's not on yet. It's probably sitting in the shade. That one's on. I love this one. This is my favorite solar fountain. I made this, and I want to make a whole bunch more. See the hummingbird, the flower. It's so cool. The birds come and take a bath on that. And then I've got snapdragons that came the other day up, and they've been growing snapdragons back there. So I've got here, let's see, I think there's an eggplant here. Yep, there's flowers. And then this is another cutting of a tree collard. That massive thing, look how purple that leaf is. That is a big purple tree collard going all the way down. As much as you stake them up, they still kind of wind. So you really have to watch them or they'll fall over. This is all spearmint through here. So later on, I'm going to clear this out to a point. Isn't that cool? He wants to come in and take a bath, even with me here. I am seriously thinking, with all the gardens going on, and I will decide later, I may end up changing this entire garden. And when I say changing it, I might do something different with it completely. Look at the hummingbird back there. We're going to zoom in for a minute. Nope, he just took off. He saw me. Oh, it doesn't matter. He got kicked off because all the other birds are coming in. Look at that. And then I've got another water fountain here. This is a candlestick. Drilled a hole in. Real quick, I will take a second to say something else that has nothing to do with just food gardening that I usually bring you on. I am seriously thinking of changing this, and you'll see if I do decide. I sat out here the other day and watched all the birds coming in, and it was amazing to watch all the birds. There were hundreds of goldfinches. This is a bird I've talked about that Gary was so excited to see one many, many years ago. And then all the yellow rump warblers came in, not counting all the other birds. Even a chat came in. Birds that I have never seen before were coming into the garden. They were coming in to drink out of the fountains that just sit out here, like that pair of house finches right now that are coming in to drink. And all these birds, a half a dozen sitting together, feeding and drinking, were just amazing, all over the plants, looking for insects, coming in for water. And I thought, do you know how fortunate I am to have all these birds that I have never seen before, even now? That is another type of songbird there. It's just amazing, the birds that were coming in here and the numbers that were coming in. And as I sat here the other day, I thought, I need to redo this garden. I need to start thinking more for the birds, but keep the food going. It's all so important to them because what do they need? Number one, water. They have to always be able to get water. And number two, food. I mean, if they don't get water, they die. If they don't get food in a few days, they die. Unlike hummingbird that has to have food daily, a lot of these birds hunt and hunt for food, but they need water. And they come in and it's like, this is just amazing. This whole area here has turned into a bird garden, sanctuary. So I think I'm going to cater this one a little bit more that way. I'll let you know soon how I want to do this. Look, I've got birds all through here, just coming and coming. So many birds. I'll have to go through all the birds with you because it's amazing how some come in and then disappear and go nest somewhere else and then come back. And it's just, wow. It's just, anyways, now I am wasting your time and I always feel so bad because I know a couple of you leave a comment saying, we don't want to hear about the birds. We only want to hear about the food you're growing. So being that everything is really the same from last month because I haven't added in anymore, all I'm doing now is collecting leaves and figuring out what totes I want to change and what totes I want to keep. In other words, keep the way they are, because there are some containers, when you plant them, you don't have to change them out for years. Just let the plants grow and grow and grow, and then there's some, like zucchini, they die back. You have to decide, is it draining good? What does the soil look like in there? And if it looks good, you just top it and go for it in the spring, or go for it now. I mean, now I've got, obviously, broccoli growing. I've got, well, all the collard, all the kale, all of this always grows better in the winter. Look how beautiful and green. Look at the deep, rich color. It loves the cool nights, including that one, that if I don't do something with that soon, it's going to topple over. I try to leave the tall ones for the birds because, again, they're using my food plants as a tree. And I think that is so cool. So we'll see what happens, but I'm going to have greens all year. I'm not worried about it. And I do a whole lot with greens. And then, of course, we're going to have sweet potatoes coming up. I still have squash growing. The eggplants are making a comeback. They're starting to flower now, so I'll have eggplant. We're going to have plenty of food. Celery goes all through the winter here. Mint, well, this is chocolate mint in here. This is sage, garlic chives. We have garlic chives all through the winter. Of course, onions we have all through the winter. Celery we can't get rid of. So we have plenty of food all through the winter. That is not an issue. And any squash I save, I can freeze. I don't can, not for any particular reason, I just freeze. And then, of course, I don't have to do too much because we here in Southern California tend to always have food anyways. So even here, I've got my lemon balm growing up against the house here. And then again, tons of walking onion and sweet potatoes are growing in these containers. See, here's a sweet potato flower. That's a sweet potato flower. And then I've got sweet potato that came up there. I didn't plant it, just so you know. It came up on its own. It came up through my kitchen scraps. So I'm going to really think about how I want to do this. And I am thinking here, this is my tree colored, my massive one. That's what now, 15 feet tall, if not bigger. Look how that's so big. I am thinking of doing something different in here. Moving the bird cage, which is a feeder for the birds. I've got plenty of feeders. Redesigning how I want the feeders in here. I don't want to do too many changes because it will upset the birds. Of course, I'm leaving the papayas. Top one had a whole problem with all the heat, but the bottom ones were shaded from the top one, so that one kind of sacrificed everything to keep the bottom parts alive. The bottom tree ones, the trees I should say, underneath, and it's doing fine. So I'm going to leave that because that's in a tote. It broke the tote. Look at the massive roots that are coming out of the tote and growing into the ground. So that is staying. But I'm thinking of clearing up a lot here and maybe making a little chair garden. I'm not sure. We'll see what I'm going to do. And then catering a lot to the birds. And remember, yes, it's fenced, but the rabbits they go along the wall and they squeeze in and out. So I have to think about what the rabbits may get into too and keep some things off the ground. Here I've got, of course, my garlic chives. This has been gorgeous. Look at this. It's so massive and beautiful. Swiss chard. And that's a purple, I think it's the Russian purple kale. And it's so tall. And again, I leave a lot of stuff tall so the birds can come in here and land. And then just some tomatoes that have to be trimmed. The other moringa, it's got pods now. And then here, got the tomato. This one didn't do as good. Didn't bush up as big as the one last year that was there. Still have some Malabar spinach back there. I'm going to clean up the strawberries and get this thing out of here because of the papaya plant, and it's got papayas on it. I can't really walk through here that good. And I've got the totes there, and it's kind of like not manageable. I'm spoiled now that I'm setting things up that make life so easy. I'll probably redo that maybe during the winter, and then I'll have it ready for spring. We'll see. But, you know, that's what's nice when you're gardening. Of course, this already went. That's the big moringa. We'll probably trim that way back down. And then Gary will be picking the pods later. Let's go out into this garden because I have something I need to show you. And that's our citrus trees. They're behind there. Rosemary. You always ask, where's my rosemary? I have rosemary. These were little tiny nothing plants. They're like giant bushes. They're growing here among the big papaya plants. I'm not going to get into the papayas today. You've heard it 1,000,001 times how they were in containers and they busted through and each one's got a tote. The tote's full of leaves and the leaves rot through and give a compost tea to all the papayas. So we have papayas without a doubt all the time, as well now as pomegranates that I grew from seed and planted here. And there's another rosemary. So I got another rosemary plant there. I've got some of my pomegranates covered. Oh, there's a big one back there. If I don't cover it, the squirrels will get it. I've got one covered here. And then see the big red one back there? Got to get that one off too. We're at the end of the season for pomegranates. And I don't know if I want to plant any more. And then I've got another rosemary there. So rosemary I've got, that's the cactus leaf I brought home quite a few years ago. Stopped, I saw the leaf sitting in the street, grabbed it. No thorns, planted it. Drove by one day, saw another leaf, grabbed it. It was full of thorns, dropped it. And figured that I'm happy with the one I've got that didn't bite. Okay, now what do I really want to show you? This. You've probably already seen the video. 24 chairs about. This is amazing. I cannot wait. Absolutely cannot wait to start getting into this. I'm going to start painting them one by one. I have got so many ideas on how I want to set this up. I am crazy about this. I am so excited. Can you imagine somebody threw this out in the trash, just stacked? I told the story. If you want to see the story, the video's up. I have got so many ideas. I'm not going to talk about it. It's more than just gardening. I'm going to be doing a lot of different things with chairs. Chairs are so portable. Think of that. Remember that, portable. But there's the chairs, and I am so crazy about my chair garden, and you all know it, that this is heaven sent. I was waiting for spring because I was going to hit Home Depot, Lowe's, or whoever has these chairs. They're anywhere between 10 and 20 bucks a piece. And now I get a ton of them, throw them out in the trash. We did get those black ones back there. Somebody put on, I think it's called Next Door. And Gary went and picked those up. One is cracked, so I will be putting a tote and planting on that. But the other two are so nice, we're going to keep them. And then there was a footstool, which I stuck up in the trees there to sit on. But this has been an amazing find. I'll walk over to the wall real quick. And there's really nothing else. The moringa now is going to pod, and there's still leaves up there. I grabbed some yesterday to make a green drink. The eggplant, still struggling, but has been throwing eggplant. See, there's a purple one right here. This grows only little tiny purple eggplants. I don't even know what kind it is. The plant came up from seed. This I haven't done anything with. So you can see I planted a couple moringa trees there. These are seedlings that I grew. The tomato plant back there is still growing. Gary's still working on his ponds. And there's a couple squash plants I left, but I really think they're done. And then all the stringy stuff, the leaves, those are garlic chives, and they really like the wall. I don't have any walking onions in there. I don't know if I ever did plant them or not, but they really like the heat of the wall, so I'm going to get more garlic chives there. And that's basically it. So you've seen the chairs. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? Is that too cool? Oh my gosh. They paint up like a charm. You get cheap tester paint from Home Depot. If you buy it and pick the color you want, they're like $3 or $4. I think they're $4. That's what I use to paint all these. Don't worry if it says indoor, outdoor. It works. These chairs, you go, well, I see some chips. Usually this is done by me stacking chairs after a party. And I painted these years ago. Once you paint them, that white doesn't come off. But I don't want to get into that because I've got a whole video on that. And then this one I'll end up taking down soon. I've got some tomatillos, and that's a cardboard box. But the sage is still growing and some walking onions are growing, so I'm probably going to leave that for right now. Now I don't have to worry. I wanted the chairs. But now, obviously, I've got a ton of chairs, so I don't have to worry about that. And then my trees that I grew from seeds, they're still hanging in there. Truck bed is growing, still some squash and tomatillos, but mainly now greens, which has been fantastic. I've been coming out and look at how big and beautiful they are. But see all the squash back there? There's tons of squash. I haven't even picked it. I don't harvest. I pick as needed. See where I put my stool out there so I can sit out there and hope that a bobcat or mountain lion doesn't get me? Sometimes I sit there and just under the trees, and it's just so beautiful, and just look around. So I kind of stuck that stool there. And am I kidding about a mountain lion? No, we do have a mountain lion. My neighbor told me she saw it 3 times. I think I seen it once. And that's it. So here is my chair garden. Isn't this fantastic? It doesn't look as good as it did a few months ago, of course, because the zucchini was growing really, really big. But look at all this. All the lettuce that's growing in here. Isn't that amazing? I can move all this lettuce and get big lettuce. I've got peppers growing in here now. I have got celery. I don't remember planting the celery, but I got celery. I don't think the squash is going to grow. I'm waiting to see, but we still have tons of tomatoes. Trimmed it all back because it was really suffering because it's at the end of the season. But you know what? It's still growing tomatoes, and of course another big celery, which I will keep. And then the little tomato plants, see, they're coming up because the tomato dropped. So I'll decide what I'm going to do. A little pepper plant. I have parsley growing. I have another eggplant, more tomatoes, little tomato plants growing on the bottom. Again, another zucchini. I don't know if it'll make it. Strawberries are getting moved out. I don't want to do strawberries in here. The tomatoes are still growing beautiful. I made these, and we'll get into this in the spring, how to put the stakes together, the garden stakes or tomato stakes. It's working fantastic. It'll cost you nothing to make those. Celery, more peppers back there. That's an orange pepper that you can see here. This I don't know. This is part of a zucchini plant, and it is trying, but we'll see. I have no hurry to pull it out. Garlic chives, and then this is just all tomatoes. And I've been catching the water, and I will show you a failure. I was hoping, let me pull this out. No, it's totally gone now. I was hoping that this cutting I had here of a tree collard would work, and it won't because the rabbits came along and they ate it. So I can't grow anything on the bottom. If you've got a chair garden set up, let me step back. You can grow plants all along the bottom, and you know how I set it up. And when the water waters the containers, you can have all kinds of plants growing on the bottom. Here I can't, it's so open. The rabbits come through, they found that. They can't reach the chairs. They have no way of getting in the chairs, so they don't touch any of the plants. Nothing has bothered any plants. I haven't even had to put any tool around there. But that would have needed a tool or a cage because they come in here and it's like, oh, well, we can reach that. So that's what happened to that. So that didn't work. I was hoping they'd leave it alone, but I guess I knew better. So that's it. So I am really excited about this. I'm going to have a second chair garden here in the spring with these chairs. I'm going to have another one here, and then I'm going to use chairs for other things as well. I could put them up against the wall, but I'm not going to bother right now. Start painting them, do something with them, and get a whole new chair garden. It's going to look a little bit different than this one, but I will let you know it's going to be the same setup because this setup takes me less than 5 minutes. Less than 5 minutes to water and take care of. And I only have to water this now twice a week because it's not as hot. I don't have to water it every day. The storage containers, they don't dry out like a lot of other things dry out. And so I don't have to worry about it. But this is going to turn into a whole new chair garden here. And I have enough to put some in my bird garden if I want to grow certain things. Is that cool? So keep an eye out on if you've got the next door, I think it's called. Keep an eye out and see if anybody's giving away chairs, and keep an eye out on the street. They literally had these piled up on the street for the trash, and I ended up scoring about 24 chairs. And this whole garden here is 11 chairs. I could have more if I wanted to make it deeper to walk in. I can't make mine any deeper because Gary drives here, and that's how he drives down to his garden because he comes and then he drives down this road. So I don't want to block him out. I don't think he'd be real happy about it. I could go the other way and make it long this way, but I'm thinking of how I'm going to step in. And I've analyzed because the hose is here, it works much better for me to step in this way. So I'll probably do again 11 chairs separated, not one on top of the other, because remember, when these plants grow in the spring, they get massive. So they'll be just set up similar, but it's going to be just a little bit more fun. And with that, I think I've covered everything today. I'm so excited. So have a great day, November 1st. Oh my goodness. I can't believe how time has really flown. Have a great day, and don't forget to eat what you grow. Bye-bye, everybody. I think I'll cut it in half so she can get double. Kitty, kitty. Oh, Jack doesn't eat. Jack doesn't like broccoli. Jack, you don't like broccoli. Here, I'll give you a piece. You don't like broccoli. Okay, you're making a liar out of me.